Hi and welcome to the Square Balloon action and tutorial set. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to change the color of something in your picture. Like in this case I'm going to change the color of the hat first, and then in the second one I'm going to change the color of the blanket. And I'm going to do it using this lovely picture given to me to play with by Sherry Perroni of Sherry Perroni Photography. And this kind of thing can be useful if you have a setup of a baby where the baby looks lovely and comfortable and is posed nicely, and you have the baby from a few different angles, and you just want to give your gallery, maybe you want to give it a little bit of variety. So maybe by changing the color of the blanket, then you can make it look like an entirely different setup, which is obviously very useful. So the first thing we're going to do is change the color of the hat. So I'm going to go on the one that's straight out of camera here, and to select the hat I'm going to use the quick selection tool, which is over here, and I'm going to make sure that it's on plus to start with. To start selecting, I just click on one area of the hat and I start dragging my mouse around. Okay, so that's pretty good. It does a pretty good job, but sometimes you might need to go back in with the minus tool and minus the bits that it's taken too much of. Let's just see, yeah, it's taking a little bit too much here, and go back in with the plus. So it does a pretty good job, but you can always, because you're only making a mask out of this, you can always tidy it up then afterwards. So then I'm going to go to Refine Edge, softens the edges a little bit. You can see there what it's selecting, and I have my output set to selection. So I'll click OK. So you can see that's just selected the hat. Now that's useful because when I make an adjustment layer now, I'm going to make a hue saturation adjustment layer, and when I make that, because the hat is selected, it'll make an automatic mask for that saturation, for that hue saturation adjustment layer. So you can see when I change the hue what happens to the hat. So I'm going to try and find something where the pale colour matches the blanket a little bit, and it's somewhere, say somewhere around there. And that's fine, it looks fine. You can see here that you can see where it's created an automatic mask. Now if I zoom up on that, you can see that there's a little blue line around the edges, there's some purple fringing, which obviously I don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tidy that up a little bit. I'm going to flatten the image. I'm going to select my paintbrush. I'm going to change the mode from normal to color, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Alt. That changes the paintbrush to picker, so it's picked that color there, which is the color of this hat. And I'm going to just start, I'm going to duplicate this layer just in case I make any mistakes. And you can see when I paint over, and I'm painting over the skin now so you can see, but where I paint over it sort of automatically changes the colour to the the one that I want it to be. So let's do it a little bit neater. I just want to get just going to deal with the blue and the purple first, then I go back in and do the skin. Okay. So obviously you can be as neat as you like here. I'm just doing this quickly. So I just want to make sure that none of that purple is there. And of course if I'm going over the purple bits, then I can just hold down Alt, get the picker, and then change those to the colour that's there. And you can also lower the opacity if you don't want it to be so strong in colour. So now we'll just fix the skin here. Put it back up to a higher opacity. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that now. That looks just a little bit here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to do another couple of things on this picture here. I'll flatten that down, and I'm going to run portraiture, and I'm going to run my own action, one of my own actions, which is, let's just find it here, and I'm going to run red skin removal. So there's a little bit of red skin on the baby here. Just make sure that's above the portraiture level. I find that around the feet is often an area that can be quite red. And I'm also going to run an action that I have called Lighten Up. Let me lower the opacity of that. So the other thing that I'm going to do is, even though this blanket is very nearly perfect, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it look even more smooth by, let me flatten that down, making a gradient layer. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to click on my gradient tool, make sure that it's on radial gradient. For my foreground colour, I'm going to choose this colour here that's right beside the baby, and for the background colour, a colour that's from the dark corner up here. Draw a line from one to the other. I could probably make it a little bit brighter. Okay, and then once that's done, I can make a mask, and with my paintbrush set to black, I can just reveal the baby then. And then with a lower opacity, start feathering, because I want to keep some of the texture from here, because that's nice. Okay, so that's that one done. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same with the blue. So let's just go back to the original, and this time I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to use the quick selection tool to select the background. Obviously it's taken far too much here now. Just make sure that you're completely taking the baby out of the mask. A little bit of yellow in here. Again, the refine edge. And hue saturation. And this time I'm going to match up the blanket with the blue. Take out a bit of its saturation. That's a nice colour. And let's have a look. So there's a few areas there. So what you can do is with your mask, if you paint onto your mask with black, if there's an area of the blanket that you see that you didn't get, you just paint with white, actually get that back. Now there are some colours that when you mask them, or when you take a baby on a particular blanket, it'll create a slight colour cast, and you can see on the back of the baby here, you can see a slight colour cast from the yellow of the blanket that was underneath. So we're going to deal with that. I flatten the image, and I'm going to take I've taken the colour from the baby's skin up here, and again go into colour, maybe a lower opacity for this, and just paint over that colour cast. A little bit down here as well. Okay, so that's the skin. And then we'll do the same that we did before with this. Just choose the colour that we want to change it to by holding down Alt and then just painting. Because you don't want any kind of fringing, otherwise it's just going to look fake. And then I would do the same thing as I did with the other one. I would get the gradient tool, make a new layer, choose this as my foreground colour, and a colour up here as my background, stretch from one to the other, and then make sure that layer is clicked, click on my mask tool and use my black paintbrush to mask. So put it on 100% to reveal the baby and a little bit of the blanket in front. It just gives a very smooth faded off blanket look. So there you have the two different elements of the picture that have been changed.